The metal floor felt cold against Zara's knees as she waited for her punishment. The chains around her wrists were heavy and made a soft ringing sound every time she moved. Next to her, Lydia was trying not to shake with fear. The two friends had been best soldiers in the Valonian army until 3 months ago. Now they were prisoners waiting to learn their fate. The Great Hall was filled with important people from their home world. All of them wore the dark robes that showed their high rank. Their faces looked angry and cold as they stared down at the two women kneeling before them. The lights above were too bright and hurt Zara's eyes, but she kept looking straight ahead. She would not show weakness, not even now. Commander Vex stepped forward. He was a tall man with scars across his face from many battles. His voice was loud and harsh when he spoke. Zara of the northern colonies and Lydia of the outer rim, you have broken the most important law of our people. You showed mercy to our enemies. You helped them escape instead of destroying them as ordered. Zara remembered that day clearly. They had been sent to a small planet called Keth 7 to make the people there submit to Valonian rule. The standard procedure was simple. Kill the leaders, burn the cities, and force the survivors to work as slaves. But when Zara saw the children hiding in the ruins of their school, something inside her changed. She could not kill them. She could not watch them die. Lydia had felt the same way. When their commander ordered them to execute a group of prisoners, both women had refused. Instead, they helped the prisoners escape to the mountains where they could hide. For this act of kindness, they were arrested and brought back home to face trial. Do you have anything to say before we give you your punishment? Commander Vex asked. Zara lifted her head higher. I would do it again, she said clearly. Those people did nothing wrong. They just wanted to live in peace. The crowd in the hall made angry sounds. Some of them shouted that she was a traitor. Others called for her immediate death. Commander Vex raised his hand, and everyone became quiet again. Your words prove that you are no longer fit to be Valonian, he said. You have become weak and soft like the creatures you chose to save. Therefore, your punishment will match your crime. He walked closer to where they knelt. His boots made loud sounds on the metal floor. You will be sent to the planet the humans call Earth. You will live there among the savage creatures until you die. You will have no technology, no weapons, no way to contact us. You will survive as the primitives do, or you will not survive at all. Zara felt her heart sink. She had heard stories about Earth and its people. The humans were said to be violent and cruel. They fought wars over small pieces of land and killed each other for money and power. They were barely more than animals, according to Valonian teaching. To be sent there was worse than death. Please, Lydia spoke for the first time. Her voice was quiet and shaking. Send us to the prison colonies instead. We will work in the mines for the rest of our lives. Just do not send us to that place. Commander Vex smiled, but it was not a kind smile. The prison colonies are for criminals who might still be saved. You two are beyond saving. You have chosen to care about inferior beings. Now you can spend your lives among them. The guards came forward and lifted the two women to their feet. Zara's legs felt weak after kneeling for so long, but she forced herself to stand straight. She would not give these people the satisfaction of seeing her fall. They were taken to a small ship that would carry them to Earth. The journey would take several days, and they would spend it locked in a tiny room with only basic food and water. As they walked through the corridors of the Great Hall, people they had once called friends turned away from them. Some spat on the ground as they passed. The ship was old and not very comfortable. The room they were put in had 2 narrow beds and a small window that showed the stars outside. For the first day, neither woman spoke much. They were too shocked by what had happened to them. On the second day, Lydia finally broke the silence. "What do you think will happen to us?" she asked. Zara looked out the window at the endless space around them. "I do not know," she said honestly. "But I am not sorry for what we did. Those children on Keth 7 deserve to live, even if it means we will die on Earth. Even then, the pilot of the ship was not friendly to them. He brought them food twice a day, but never spoke except to tell them to stay in their room. On the third day, he told them to prepare for landing. They were almost at Earth. Zara had studied the planet in school like all Vilonian children. She knew it was mostly covered with water and had many different types of land. The humans lived in large groups called cities, but there were also empty areas with forests and mountains. She wondered where they would be left. The ship entered Earth's atmosphere with a loud roaring sound. Through the small window, Zara could see white clouds and blue sky. It was actually quite beautiful, though she did not want to admit it. Soon she could see green land below them, covered with trees and crossed by rivers. The ship landed in a clearing surrounded by tall trees. Pilot opened their door and pointed outside. "This is where you get off," he said. "Do not try to follow the ship or signal for help. No one will come for you." He handed them a small bag with some human clothes and basic supplies. "Try to blend in if you can," he said, "though I doubt you will last long enough for it to matter." Zara and Lydia stepped out of the ship onto solid ground. The air smelled different here, fresh and clean with scents they did not recognize. The trees around them were taller than any they had seen on their home world. Birds were singing in the branches above, and somewhere in the distance they could hear the sound of running water. The ship's engine started up again, and within minutes it was gone, disappearing into the darkening sky. The two women stood alone in the forest as night began to fall around them. They had never been so far from home or felt so lost. Now what? Lydia asked, hugging herself against the cool air. Zara picked up the bag of supplies and looked around. Through the trees, she could see lights in the distance. "I think there is a human settlement that way," she said. "We should find shelter before it gets completely dark." They started walking toward the lights, their feet making soft sounds on the ground covered with fallen leaves. Neither of them knew what they would find when they reached the human town. All they knew was that their old life was over, and whatever came next would be completely different from anything they had ever experienced. As they walked through the forest, Zara thought about the choice they had made. They could have followed orders and killed those innocent people on Keth 7. They would still be honored soldiers with comfortable lives ahead of them. Instead, they had chosen to show mercy, and now they were exiles on a strange world. But even facing this uncertain future, Zara knew she would make the same choice again. Some things were more important than following orders. Some things were worth any sacrifice. The lights ahead grew brighter as they got closer. Soon they would meet their first humans and discover what their new life would be like. The lights got brighter as Zara and Lydia walked through the dark forest. Their feet hurt from walking on the rough ground, and branches kept catching on their clothes. The sounds of the night were strange to them. They heard owls calling and small animals moving through the bushes. Everything felt dangerous and unknown. After walking for almost an hour, they reached the edge of the trees. In front of them was a road made of smooth black stone. Across the road, they could see a small building with warm yellow light coming from its windows. A vehicle was parked outside, bigger than the ones they had seen in Vilonian files about. "Earth. That must be a human dwelling," Lydia whispered. Her pale purple skin looked almost gray in the moonlight. "Should we approach it?" Zara looked at her own blue skin and long fingers. Even in the human clothes the pilot had given them, they clearly did not look like the people of this world. "We need help," she said. "We have no choice." They walked slowly toward the building. As they got closer, they could hear voices inside and see the shapes of people moving around. Zara felt her heart beating fast. Everything she had been taught said that humans were violent creatures who would attack strangers. But they had nowhere else to go. Before they could decide what to do next, the door of the building opened. A man stepped outside and started walking toward a small shed behind the house. He was tall with dark hair and wore clothes that looked comfortable and practical. He moved with the easy confidence of someone who knew his surroundings well. The man stopped when he saw them standing at the edge of his property. For a moment, nobody moved. Zara could see his face clearly in the light from his house. His eyes were wide with surprise, but she did not see the anger or hatred she had expected. "Are you two okay?" the man asked. His voice was gentle and concerned. "You look lost." Zara and Lydia looked at each other. They had learned some of the human language called English during their flight to Earth, but hearing it spoken by a real human was different. The man took a step closer, and both women moved back without thinking. "Hey, it's okay," the man said, holding up his hands. "I'm not going to hurt you. My name is Jake Martinez. I work for the Park Service. Are you hurt? Do you need help?" The kindness in his voice surprised Zara. This was not how she had been told humans would act toward strangers. She looked at his face again and saw only worry and the desire to help. "We are lost," she said carefully, trying to make her accent less obvious. "We need somewhere to stay for the night." Jake looked at them more closely now. In the bright light from his house, there was no hiding their unusual appearance. Zara saw his eyes widen as he noticed their skin color and the way their bodies were shaped differently from humans. But instead of running away or calling for help, he seemed to become even more concerned. "You're not from around here, are you?" he said quietly. "No," Zara replied. "We are from very far away." Jake was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he nodded toward his house. "Come inside. You both look cold and tired. We can figure out the rest later." Lydia grabbed Zara's arm. "Are you sure this is safe?" she whispered in their own language. "Do we have another choice?" Zara whispered back. Jake heard them speaking, but did not seem afraid. Instead, he smiled a little. "I don't understand what you just said, but I can guess you're worried about trusting me. That's smart, but I promise I just want to help." He turned and walked toward his house, leaving the door open behind him. After a moment of uncertainty, Zara and Lydia followed. Inside of Jake's home was warm and comfortable. The walls were covered with pictures of mountains and forests. There were soft chairs and a table with books and papers on it. Everything looked lived in and welcoming. "Lisa," Jake called out, "we have visitors." A woman came out of another room. She was smaller than Jake, with straight black hair and intelligent eyes. She wore a white coat over her regular clothes, and Zara could see that her hands were very clean, like someone who worked with delicate things. The woman stopped when she saw them. Like Jake, her first reaction was surprise, but then she quickly moved into what seemed like a professional mode. "I'm Lisa Chun," she said, walking closer to them. "I'm a doctor, well, a veterinarian actually, but I have medical training. Are either of you injured?" She looked at them the way Zara imagined. A healer would look at patients. Her eyes were checking for signs of hurt or sickness, not staring at their strange appearance. "We are not hurt," Zara said. "Just tired and hungry." Lisa nodded and looked at Jake. They seemed to have a conversation with just their eyes, the way people do when they know each other very well. Then Lisa turned back to them. "When did you last eat?" she asked. 2 days ago, Lydia answered, "on the ship." Jake and Lisa looked at each other again. "Ship?" Jake asked. Zara realized she had said too much. "We came from across the ocean," she said quickly. It was a long journey. It was not exactly a lie, she told herself. Space was like an ocean, and their journey had been very long. Lisa did not seem convinced, but she did not push for more answers. Instead, she went to what Zara guessed was the kitchen area and started preparing food. The smells that came from there made Zara's stomach hurt with hunger. Jake sat down across from them. "So," he said carefully, "I'm guessing you two are in some kind of trouble. You don't have to tell me everything, but I need to know if someone is looking for you. Someone dangerous." Zara thought about the Valonian Empire and their powerful ships. "The people who sent us away will not come looking for us," she said. "They want us to stay gone." "Sent you away?" Jake's voice was gentle. "Like exiled?" "Yes," Zara said quietly. "We did something they considered wrong." "What did you do?" Zara looked at Lydia, who nodded slightly. "We refused to kill innocent people," Zara said. "Children, families. We were soldiers, but we could not hurt people who had done nothing wrong." Jake's expression changed. The concern in his eyes became something deeper, like respect. "So you were punished for showing mercy?" "Yes, our people believe that mercy is weakness." "And what do you believe?" Zara had never been asked that question before. "In Valonian society, you believed what you were told to believe. Individual opinions were not important. I believe that protecting innocent life is more important than following orders," she said finally. Jake smiled, and it was the first completely warm smile either alien had ever received. "And you're going to fit in just fine here." Lisa came, back with plates of food. It was simple: bread, soup, some kind of meat, but it smelled wonderful. She set the plates in front of them, along with strange utensils that Zara had read about but never used. "Eat slowly at first," Lisa advised. "If you haven't eaten in 2 days, your stomachs need to adjust." As they ate, Jake and Lisa asked gentle questions about where they came from and what they needed. Zara and Lydia answered as honestly as they could without revealing the full truth about their origins. They said they were refugees from a war in a distant land, which was not entirely false. When they finished eating, Lisa examined them both carefully. She checked their temperature, looked at their eyes, and asked about any pain or discomfort. Her touch was gentle and professional, and she treated them exactly as Zara imagined she would treat any patient. "You're both exhausted," Lisa concluded, "and probably in shock from whatever you've been through. You need rest." Jake set up beds for them in a small room that he said was usually used for storage. He brought them clean clothes and towels and showed them how to use the human washing facilities. Everything he did was done with kindness and without expecting anything in return. Before leaving them alone for the night, Jake stopped at their door. "I don't know what your real story is," he said quietly, "and I don't need to know unless you want to tell me, but I want you to understand something. You're safe here. Whatever you're running from, whatever you're afraid of, it doesn't matter right now. You're among friends." After he left, Zara and Lydia sat on their beds in silence for a long time. Finally, Lydia spoke. "They do not act like the humans we were taught about," she said. "No," Zara agreed. "They do not. Jake could have called for help when he saw us. He could have been afraid or angry. Instead, he fed us and gave us shelter. Lisa examined us like we were people she cared about, not strange creatures to be feared." "What? If everything we were taught about humans was wrong?" Lydia asked quietly. Zara looked out the small window at the peaceful human town beyond. For the first time since their exile began, she felt something that might have been hope. "Maybe," she sighed, "our punishment was not a punishment at all." Zara woke up to the sound of birds singing outside her window. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she remembered the forest, Jake's kind face, and the warm meal Lisa had given them. She sat up slowly and looked around the small room. That had become their temporary home. Lydia was already awake, sitting by the window and watching the human town come to life. People were walking on the streets, some carrying bags, others leading small animals on ropes. Children ran between. The adults, their voices high and happy. They seemed so peaceful, Lydia said quietly. I thought humans were always fighting. Before Zara could answer, there was a soft knock on their door. Jake's voice came through the wood. Are you two awake? Lisa made breakfast. They found Jake and Lisa in the kitchen. Lisa was cooking something that smelled sweet and wonderful, while Jake read from a collection of papers. When he saw them, he folded the papers and smiled. How did you sleep? He asked. Very well, Zara said, and she meant it. The bed had been more comfortable than anything she had slept on during her years as a soldier. Lisa put plates of food in front of them. The round, flat cakes were golden brown and covered with a thick, sweet liquid. There were also strips of cooked meat and yellow eggs. It was more food than many Valonian soldiers got in a day. Eat as much as you want, Lisa said. Jake told me you haven't had a proper meal in days. As they ate, Jake explained their situation. I called my friend Helen last night. She's the town doctor. I told her we had 2 visitors who needed help with some paperwork. She's going to meet us later today. Paperwork? Zara asked. Identity documents, Lisa explained. In this country, everyone needs papers that prove who they are. Without them, you can't get jobs or rent a place to live. Zara felt worried. How could they get human papers when they were not human? Jake seemed to understand her concern. Helen is a good person. He said, she's helped other refugees before. People who came here from far away and needed a fresh start. After breakfast, Jake took them into the town. Cedar Falls was small but busy. There were shops along the main street, and people everywhere. Zara and Lydia had put on human clothes and tried to hide their unusual skin color, but they still got. Some curious looks. Jake noticed their nervousness. Don't worry, he said. People here are friendly. They're just curious because they haven't seen you before. They stopped at a small shop with fruits and vegetables displayed outside. The woman behind the counter had gray hair and kind eyes. She smiled when she saw Jake. Morning, Jake, she said. Who are your friends? Maria, meet Zara and Lydia. Jake said, they're new in town. Maria looked at them carefully, and Zara was sure she noticed their strange appearance. But instead of asking difficult questions, Maria picked out the best apples from her display and put them in a bag. Welcome to Cedar Falls, she said, handing them the bag. First week is free for new residents. It's a tradition. When Jake tried to pay, Maria waved him away. I said it's free. That means free. They visited several other places in town. At the library, a man named Pete gave them cards that would let them borrow books. At a small restaurant, the owner insisted on giving them free coffee just because they were new in town. Everywhere they went, people were helpful and welcoming. Why are they so kind to strangers? Lydia asked Jake as they walked. Jake thought about the question. I guess because most of us came from somewhere else originally. My great-grandparents came here from Mexico. Lisa's family came from China. America is built by people who left their old homes looking for something better. This was completely different from Valonian society, where strangers were viewed with suspicion, and outsiders were never welcomed. In the afternoon, they met Dr. Helen Wright at her office. She was an older woman with silver hair and intelligent, eyes that reminded Zara of Lisa. When she looked at Zara and Lydia, her expression was curious, but not unkind. Jake tells me you two need some help with documentation, she said. Before we talk about that, I'd like to examine you both, just to make sure you're healthy. Dr. Wright's examination was thorough but gentle. She checked their hearts, their breathing, and their reflexes. When she saw their unusual skin color up close, she paused for a moment but did not comment. "Your physiology is quite unusual," she said finally, "but you both seem healthy. Now about those documents." She sat down across from them and folded her hands. "I've been a doctor in this town for 30 years. In that time, I've learned that people sometimes need help in ways that don't fit the normal rules. I don't need to know your whole story, but I need to know if you're dangerous." "We are not dangerous," Zara said. "We only want to live in peace." "Are you running from people who might hurt others while looking for you?" "No, the people we are running from want nothing to do with this place." Dr. Wright nodded. "That's good. Enough for me." She opened a drawer and pulled out some papers. "I have some friends in the county office. We can arrange for identity documents that will let you live and work here legally." Over the next few weeks, Zara and Lydia settled into life in Cedar Falls. Dr. Wright helped them get their papers, using a story about them being refugees from a war in a distant country. Mayor Pete found them jobs at the town library, where they could learn about human culture while helping people find books. The work was strange to them at first. In Valonian society, all work was for the benefit of the state. But here, they were helping individuals find information they wanted, solving small problems, making people's days a little better. It felt good in a way that military work never had. Mrs. Stone, the head librarian, was patient with them as they learned. She taught them how to organize books, how to use the computers, and how to help people find what they needed. She never asked about their background or made them feel unwelcome. "Everyone deserves access to knowledge," she told them. "That's what libraries are for." One day, a small boy came into the library crying. He was maybe 7 years old, with messy brown hair and dirt on his clothes. Zara had never dealt with human children before and did not know what to do. "What's wrong?" she asked, kneeling down to his level. "I lost my dog," the boy said through his tears. "His name is Buddy, and he's brown and white, and he ran away when I left the gate open." Without thinking, Zara put her hand on the boy's shoulder. "What's your name?" "Danny." "Danny, I'm Zara. Let's see if we can help you find Buddy." Zara spent the next hour helping Danny make signs to put up around town. She walked with him to different neighborhoods, asking people if they had seen a brown and white dog. When they finally found Buddy sleeping under someone's porch, Danny hugged Zara's legs tight. "Thank you, Zara," he said. "You're the nicest person ever." That night, Danny's mother came to the library to thank Zara personally. "Danny hasn't stopped talking about you," she said. He told everyone at dinner about the kind lady who helped him find his dog. The incident made Zara think about the differences between human and Valonian children. Valonian young were taught to be independent and strong from an early age. Showing emotion or asking for help was seen as weakness. But Danny had cried openly and accepted help from a stranger without shame. His mother seemed proud of him for caring so much about his pet. As the weeks passed, both aliens found themselves becoming part of the community in ways they had never experienced before. When Mrs. Santos at the grocery store had trouble lifting heavy boxes, Lydia helped her without being asked. When old Mr. Frank had trouble with his computer at the library, Zara spent extra time teaching him how to use it. In return, the people of Cedar Falls included them in their lives. They were invited to birthday parties and community events. People asked their opinions about things and seemed to value their answers. Children like Danny would run up to them on the street just to say hello. One evening, Jake and Lisa invited them to dinner at a restaurant in town. As they ate, Lisa asked them a question that made them both stop chewing. "Do you miss your home?" she asked gently. Zara looked at Lydia, then back at Lisa. "We thought we would," she said. But this place feels more like home than anywhere we've ever lived. Why is that? Jake asked. Zara thought about all the kindness they had been shown, all the times people had helped them without expecting anything in return. She thought about Danny's hug, Maria's free apples, Dr. Wright's willingness to help strangers, Pete's job offer. Because here, people care about each other, she said finally. Not because they have to, but because they want to. Where we come from, people only help others if they get something in return, Lydia added. But here, you help people just because it's the right thing to do. Jake smiled. That's what neighbors do. Neighbors? People who share the same community. We look out for each other. That night, as Zara lay in her bed, she thought about the word neighbors. In Valonian, there was no equivalent term. You had family, fellow soldiers, and subjects of the Empire. But the idea of caring about someone simply because you lived near them was completely foreign. Yet here she was, caring about Danny and his lost dog, worrying about Mrs. Santos's heavy boxes, feeling happy when Mr. Frank successfully sent his first email. These humans had become important to her, not because of duty or law, but because they had shown her kindness when she needed it most. 2 years had passed since Zara and Lydia arrived in Cedar Falls. The alien women had learned to speak English perfectly and had become valued members of the community. Zara still worked at the library, where children would often come just to hear her tell stories. Lydia had started helping Carlos at the animal shelter, caring for abandoned pets with a gentleness that surprised everyone who knew her past as a soldier. On a quiet Tuesday evening, Zara was walking home from the library when she noticed something strange in the sky. A small light was moving in a pattern that was too regular to be a plane or satellite. Her heart began to beat faster as she recognized the movement of a Valonian scout ship. She ran to find Lydia, who was closing up the animal shelter for the night. We have visitors, Zara said quietly, pointing to the sky. Lydia looked up and saw the light. Her face went pale. How did they find us? I don't know, but we need to be ready. The ship landed in the same forest, clearing where they had been dropped. Off 2 years earlier. The next morning, as Zara and Lydia were getting ready for work, there was a knock on their door. They lived in a small apartment above the library now, a cozy place that Jake had helped them find. Zara opened the door and froze. Standing in the hallway was Captain Noir, her former commanding officer. He was still tall and imposing, with the same cold eyes she remembered from their military days. He wore civilian clothes, but she could see the outline of weapons hidden beneath his jacket. "Hello, Zara," he said in their native language. "May I come in?" Zara stepped back and let him enter. Lydia came out of the kitchen and stopped when she saw him. Captain Noir looked around their small apartment with obvious disgust. "So this is how you live now," he said. "Like animals in a cage. What do you want?" Zara asked. Captain Noir walked to the window and looked down at the street below. People were starting their day, walking to work, greeting each other cheerfully. Children were waiting for the school bus, their voices high and happy. "The High Council sent me to check on your punishment," he said. "They wanted to make sure you were suffering properly. But what I see disgusts me more than I expected." He turned back to face them. "You've gone soft. You've become like them. Look at you, living among these creatures, working their simple jobs, pretending to care about their pathetic lives." "These people are not creatures," Lydia said quietly. "They are good and kind. They welcomed us when we had nothing." Captain Noir laughed, but it was not a pleasant sound. "Good and kind? They are weak. They help strangers without getting anything in return. They waste resources on animals and children. They show mercy to their enemies. Everything that makes a species strong, they reject." "Everything that makes a species strong?" Zara repeated. You mean like the strength to protect innocent people? The strength to care about others more than yourself? That is not strength. That is weakness that will destroy them. Captain Noir pulled out a small device that Zara recognized as a communication unit. Which brings me to why I'm really here. He activated the device and showed them a holographic image. It was a map of Earth, with several areas marked in red. The Empire has decided that this planet might be useful after all. The humans have some interesting technology, and their world has resources we can use. Zara felt sick. You're planning to invade. Eventually. But first, we need information. Military capabilities, population centers, leadership structures. That's where you two come in. Lydia shook her head. We won't help you hurt these people, won't you? Captain Noir smiled coldly. Let me explain your situation. You have two choices. You can come back with me now and face execution for your original crimes. Or you can prove that you're still loyal to the Empire by gathering the information we need. And if we refuse both options? Zara asked. And I will complete my mission anyway, and your human friends will suffer for harboring traitors to the Empire. The threat hung in the air between them. Zara thought about Jake and Lisa, who had taken them in when they had nowhere to go. She thought about little Danny, who still came to the library every week to hear stories. She thought about Dr. Wright, who had risked her reputation to help two strangers get legal documents. How long do we have to decide? Lydia asked. 24 hours. I'll be waiting in the forest where you were dropped off. Don't try to run. My ship can track you anywhere. On this planet. After Captain Noir left, Zara and Lydia sat in their small kitchen, not speaking for a long time. Finally, Lydia broke the silence. What are we going to do? I don't know, Zara admitted. If we go back with him, we die. If we help him, we betray everyone who has been kind to us. If we refuse, he might hurt innocent people. There has to be another way. That evening, Jake came to visit them as he often did. He brought fresh vegetables from his garden, and a smile that usually made Zara feel better. But tonight, she could barely look at him. You two seem upset, he said, sitting down at their table. Is everything okay? Zara looked at Lydia, who nodded slightly. They had always been honest with Jake and Lisa about most things. Maybe it was time to tell them the complete truth. Jake, Zara said slowly, we need to tell you something about where we really come from. I figured you weren't from another country, Jake said gently. Your story never quite added up, but I also figured you'd tell me when you were ready. So Zara told him everything about the Valonian Empire, about their exile, about their true nature as aliens from another world. She told him about Captain Noir's visit and the impossible choice they now faced. Jake listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached across the table and took her hand. So you're aliens, he said. That explains why you're so much better at organizing the library than any human I've met. Despite everything. Zara smiled a little. You're not afraid? Of you two? Never. You've spent 2 years proving who you really are. And who you are is two people who care more about protecting others than protecting yourselves. But what do we do about Captain Noir? Jake thought about it. First, we need to warn the right people. I have contacts in the military from my time in the service. They need to know about the potential threat. And then we figure out how to convince your captain that Earth isn't the easy target he thinks it is. The next morning, Jake called his friend Colonel Martinez, who worked at a nearby military base. Within hours, Zara and Lydia found themselves in a secure room, telling their story to a group of serious-looking people in uniforms. The humans' reaction surprised both aliens. Instead of panic or disbelief, the military officials asked detailed questions about Valonian technology and tactics. They wanted to know about ship capabilities, weapons, and command structures. "You're taking this very calmly," Lydia observed. "Colonel." Martinez smiled. "We've been watching your friend's ship since it arrived. Our satellite systems are better than your captain probably realizes. We've been hoping someone would come along who could help us understand what we're dealing with." "But you're just one small planet," Zara said. "The Valonian Empire has conquered hundreds of worlds." "Maybe," said Colonel Martinez. "But I bet none of those worlds had people who were willing to die to protect 2 alien refugees. That says something about the kind of fight we'd put up." That afternoon, Zara and Lydia walked back to the forest clearing. Captain Nar was waiting by his ship, looking impatient. "Have you made your decision?" he asked. "Yes," Zara said. "We have." She pulled out a small device that Colonel Martinez had given her. It looked like a communication unit, but it was actually a tracker and recording device. "We'll help you gather information," she said, "but we want something in return." Captain Nor looked suspicious. "What?" "Guarantee that the people of this town will not be harmed when the invasion comes. They showed us kindness. We owe them protection." Captain Nar considered this. "Very well. Give me what I need, and your little human pets will be spared." It was a lie, and they all knew it. But it gave Zara the excuse she needed to stay close to him while the tracker in her device transmitted his location to the human military dot over the next few hours. She fed him false information that Colonel Martinez had prepared. Ship locations that were wrong, population numbers that were inflated, technology capabilities that were exaggerated. Captain Noir recorded everything, believing he was getting valuable intelligence. When night fell, Captain Noir prepared to leave. "The Empire will be pleased with this information," he said. "Perhaps your exile will be shortened as a reward." "We don't want our exile to end," Lydia said quietly. "This is our home now." Captain Noir looked at her with disgust. "Then you truly are lost. You've become as weak as they are." "Maybe," Zara said. "But we've also become something we never were before." "And what's that?" "Happy." Captain Noir shook his head and walked toward his ship. As the engines started up, Zara felt a mixture of relief and sadness. Relief that he was leaving, sadness that she might never see her homeworld again. But as she and Lydia walked back through the forest toward town, she realized that homeworld was just a word. Home was the place where people cared about you. Home was where you belonged. And for the first time in her life, Zara truly belonged somewhere. 3 months after Captain Noir left Earth, the attack came. Zara was reading stories to children at the library when the first Valonian ships appeared in the sky above Cedar Falls. The massive vessels were dark against the blue afternoon sky, casting shadows over the small town that had become her home. The children looked up through the windows with wonder rather than fear. They had never seen anything like the alien ships before. But Zara knew exactly what those ships meant. Her people had come to conquer Earth, just as Captain Noir had promised. "Mrs. Zara," little Danny asked, "what are those big things in the sky?" Zara's heart was beating fast, but she kept her voice calm. "They're ships from very far away. Danny, I need you and the other children to go to the back room and stay there until I come get you." The children obeyed without question, trusting her completely. As soon as they were safe, Zara ran to find Lydia at the animal shelter. Together, they hurried to the emergency command center that had been set up at the town hall. The center was busy with activity. Colonel Martinez was there with several other military officers, along with Jake, Lisa, Dr. Wright, and Mayor Pete. Everyone looked worried but determined. "The ships are positioning themselves over major cities around the world," Colonel Martinez reported, "but they haven't attacked yet. They seem to be waiting for something." "They're waiting for the humans to surrender," Zara explained. "It's standard Valonian procedure." They show their force first, then demand submission. If the planet gives up without a fight, they take it easily. If not, they destroy everything. "How long do we have?" Jake asked. "Usually 24 hours. Lydia answered. "They'll send a message demanding surrender. If there's no response, or if the response is negative, they attack." As if to prove her words, every television and radio in the building suddenly switched to the same broadcast. The face that appeared on the screens was Commander Vex, the same Velonian leader who had sentenced Zara and Lydia to exile. "People of Earth," Commander Vex said in perfect English, "I am Commander Vex of the Velonian Empire. Your world has been selected for integration into our civilization. You have 24 hours to surrender completely. Lay down all weapons, dismiss your governments, and prepare to accept Velonian rule. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your cities and the enslavement of your survivors." The broadcast ended, leaving the room in silence. Then Mayor Pete spoke up. "Well," he said with a slight smile, "I guess that settles it. Anyone here planning to surrender?" "Not a chance," said Dr. Wright. "Count me in for the fight," added Maria Santos, who had just arrived with supplies for the emergency workers. One by one, more people entered the command center. Mrs. Stone from the library, Carlos from the animal shelter, Danny's parents, old, Mr. Frank, who still needed help with his computer. They came not because they had been ordered to, but because they wanted to defend their home and their friends. "This is insane," Lydia whispered to Zara. "They have no idea how powerful the Velonian military is. These ships could destroy this entire town in minutes." "I know," Zara replied. "But look at them. They're not afraid." She was right. The humans in the room looked worried and serious, but not afraid. They were already making plans, organizing. Supplies, preparing to fight an enemy they knew almost nothing about. Colonel Martinez approached the two aliens. "We need your help," he said. "You know their technology, their tactics, their weaknesses. Will you fight with us?" Zara looked around the room at all the faces she had come to love. Jake, who had taken them in when they were lost and afraid. Lisa, who had treated their injuries with gentle hands. Dr. Wright, who had risked her reputation to give them new identities. Banny, who still hugged her legs every time he saw her. "Yes," she said firmly, "we'll fight." The next 24 hours passed quickly. The humans worked with amazing speed and cooperation to prepare their defenses. They evacuated children and elderly people to safer locations. They set up communication networks and supply lines. They organized volunteer fighters and medical teams. Zara and Lydia helped by providing detailed information about Velonian ship designs and weapon systems. They explained the aliens' battle tactics and identified weak points in their technology. The human military officers listened carefully and adapted their plans accordingly. When the deadline passed without a surrender, the attack began. Velonian fighters screamed down from the motherships, firing energy weapons at military targets around the world. But the humans were ready for them. The false information that Captain Nar had taken back to the Empire had worked perfectly. The Velonians expected weak resistance from a primitive species. Instead, they found humans who had been preparing for months, who knew exactly where the attack would come from and how to counter it. Human fighter jets, guided by alien intelligence, struck at the Velonian ship's weakest points. Ground-based weapons targeted their engines and weapon systems. The element of surprise, which the Velonians had counted on, belonged to the humans instead. In Cedar Falls, the battle was more personal. Captain Noor himself led a squadron of fighters to attack the small town, determined to punish the place that had corrupted his former soldiers. But he found more resistance than he expected. Jake had organized the town's hunters and military veterans into a defense force. They used hunting rifles and homemade explosives to attack the Valonian ground troops. Dr. Wright and Lisa set up a field hospital in the library basement. Mayor Pete coordinated evacuation efforts while somehow maintaining his calm, encouraging smile. Zara found herself fighting against soldiers she had once served beside. It should have felt wrong, but it didn't. These humans had shown her what it meant to truly live, to care about others more than yourself. Protecting them felt like the most natural thing in the world. During the battle, Captain Nair cornered Zara in the library where she had spent so many happy hours. His uniform was torn and his face was twisted with anger. "Look what you've become," he snarled in their native language. "Fighting against your own species for these animals." "They're not animals," Zara replied calmly. "They're my family." "Family?" Captain Noor laughed bitterly. "You don't even share the same blood." "Family isn't about blood," Zara said. "It's about love. It's about people who care about you, no matter what. It's about belonging somewhere." Captain Noir raised his weapon, but before he could fire, Jake appeared behind him. The human man struck the alien captain with the butt of his rifle, knocking him unconscious. "You okay?" Jake asked Zara. "I am now," she replied, and meant it. The battle lasted 3 days. Around the world, humans fought with a determination that shocked the Valonian commanders. They had expected an easy conquest of a divided, primitive world. Instead, they found a species that could unite against a common threat, that would fight to the death to protect their homes and loved ones. On the 3rd day, the Valonian fleet began to retreat. They had lost too many ships and too many soldiers. The humans, aided by their alien allies, had proven to be far more dangerous than anyone in the Empire had imagined. "Commander, Vex sent one final message before the last ship disappeared into space. This planet is too costly to take. We mark it as hostile territory. Any Valonian ship that approaches Earth will be considered lost." Cedar Falls celebrated that night like never before. The entire town gathered in the main square, sharing food and stories and relief that they had survived. Children ran between the adults, their laughter bright in the warm evening air. Zara and Lydia stood with Jake and Lisa, watching their neighbor celebrate. Danny ran up to them and wrapped his arms around Zara's waist. "Are the bad aliens gone?" "Forever?" he asked. "Yes," Zara said, hugging him back. "They're gone." "Good," Danny said. "Because you and Lydia are the only aliens we need. You're the good kind." Later that evening, Jake found Zara sitting alone on a bench outside the library. She was looking up at the stars, which seemed brighter now that the Valonian ships were gone. "Thinking about home?" Jake asked, sitting beside her. "I am home," Zara said simply. "For the first time in my life, I'm exactly where I belong." Jake took her hand. "So what happens now?" Zara thought about it. The Valonian Empire would never take her back, even if she wanted to return. But she didn't want to return. She had found something on Earth that she had never known existed. A place where she was valued not for what she could do, but for who she was. "Now we build a life," she said. "A real life, with the people we love." 6 months later, Cedar Falls held its first annual Friendship Festival. It was Zara's idea, a celebration of how the town had come together during the crisis. People came from all over the region to join the celebration. Zara and Jake were married that day, in a ceremony that blended human and alien traditions. Lydia stood as Zara's closest friend, wearing a dress that Maria Santos had made specially for the occasion. Dr. Wright performed the ceremony, since she was one of the few people qualified to marry beings from different worlds. As Zara and Jake exchanged vows, she thought about the long journey that had brought her to this moment. She had come to Earth as punishment, an exile sent to suffer among primitive creatures. Instead, she had found love, friendship, purpose, and belonging. The punishment had become the greatest gift of her life. During the reception, little Danny asked her if she was sad to be stuck on Earth forever.